When Ford introduced the Ford Bronco Raptor, what they were trying to do was pick up where the original Bronco left off in the 1960s. Back then, they wanted to make a sports car for the off-road. The more I used the Bronco off-road, the more I drove it on the trail, and the more I drove it even on-road in the canyons. This is a sports car for the off-road. Of course, the first thing that you'll notice, the first thing that anybody's going to notice when you roll up is just how wide this thing is. It's actually not as big or as long as you would imagine. It shares its wheelbase with every other four-door Bronco, but it is significantly wider than all other Broncos. Then, once you manage to actually climb aboard the beefy Bronco Raptor and sit in the cockpit, you'll see that it's still very clearly a 4x4. This isn't meant to be a luxury SUV. This isn't trying to compete with a Land Rover or a Range Rover in terms of amenities and how comfortable it is. In fact, the plastics do feel a little cheap and flimsy. They feel like they came out of the base model Bronco, and I'm sure they did. The steering wheel is very comfortable to hold, it's thickly padded, and it has cool orange accents. The shifter is also well padded and comfortable to hold. The seats are some of my favorite. They're very well bolstered, and they have fantastic material on them, which seems like it'll be easy to clean after a long day of off-roading. Among my other favorite things is the row of toggle switches just above the rearview mirror. This controls anything from LED lighting or winches that drivers want to add on later. But my other favorite thing about the inside of the Ford Bronco Raptor is the seating position. Feel like you're pushed far to the left so that it makes easier to visualize where the wide Bronco Raptor is actually going. There are two tie downs at the end of the hood, and I use these kind of like sights on a rifle to point the Bronco Raptor and just go. One of the most surprising aspects of how the Ford Bronco performs is that it loves to carve a canyon. You would be amazed by how stable this thing is in corners. It just loves to go on the twisties, and there's minimal body roll. Of course, don't forget about the exclusive twin-turbo 3.0-liter V6 engine, which now makes 418 horsepower and 440 foot-pound of torque down low. The torque comes on at 2,750 RPM, which is great for off-roading, but also good for spirited driving. However, I would say that the true MVP is the transmission. It's the same as in all other Ford Broncos, but in the Ford Bronco Raptor, it gets an extra cooler. That cooler makes all the difference because the transmission is just sublime. It knows what gear you're going to be in when you're coming out of a turn, and it just puts you in the right RPM range every single time. Of course, the real reason you're watching this is because you want to know how the Ford Bronco Raptor performs off-road, and I'm here to tell you that it performs extremely well. Here's a teaser of the Ford Bronco Raptor's off-road performance down a mild descent in Johnson Valley. This is where the King of Hammers races run, and that's where the inspiration for the Ford Bronco Raptor came, according to Ford. But you can still see a little bit of that 13 inches and 14 inches of suspension travel at work and the beefy 37-inch tires. Much of the testing took place on a course that was similar to what you just saw, but it was still the perfect place to test out one-pedal driving. When this mode is set to on, the Bronco Raptor brakes for you so that you only have to worry about hitting the accelerator. It's a very useful setting on the trail for novices like me, but that kind of performance doesn't come cheap. The Bronco Raptor will start at $68,500, but if what you're looking for really is a sports car for the off-road, I can't imagine much else that has this kind of performance everywhere, whether it's off-road or on-road.